Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our district mission vision statement is promoting lifelong learning through real-world experiences. Please call the roll and establish a quorum.
Davidic.
Here.
Fields.
Here.
McConnell.
Here.
Silva.
Here.
Fisher.
Here. Okay, we'll approve the agenda. Move to approve the agenda. John and Michelle, please call the roll.
Davidic.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Okay, open forum. Does anybody wish to address the board on anything that's not on the agenda tonight? Okay, if not. Consent items. Any discussion or questions on consent items?
How do we want to fill out the two retirements before approving those?
Okay,
We need a motion for that. don't we?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we pull out the 2 retirement resignations for later.
And approve the remaining.
And approve the remaining consent items. Thank you. I'll second.
all right, we have a motion to approve the consent items with pulling out the 2 retirement resignations. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Davidic.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Who did I miss?
Fisher.
Oh, just you. I thought I missed somebody else. I'm sorry.
Just you. Just
Well, I just mean, we only have 5 now. We used to have 7, so it's it's been a while though. Okay, excuse me.
all right. Should we do those now then?
Yes.
Yes. All right, so we need a motion to approve the 2 retirements of Mrs. Neal and Mrs. Bigger. And,
Recommendation for years of service.
we'd like to have a commendation for their years of service to the district and their thanks for all their years and their commitment to the district.
Absolutely.
So need a motion.
Need a motion for that?
Move to approve. I'll second.
All right, we got a motion by Cindy, second by Michelle to approve the commendation for the retirement resignations of Tracy Beeger and Julie Neal. Please call the roll.
Silva.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Davidic.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Enjoy retirement. Tracy's not here, is she?
She's already.
Oh, missed it.
She what?
Never mind.
She was coming? Oh, well, she missed it.
Well,
We could redo
we'll
it.
call it. We can celebrate.
I'm so thankful.
All right, old business. We're going to have a second reading of Board Policy 505.5 on graduation requirements.
There's a ton of stuff in this policy, and we've made another couple changes that are in green, and even since then, there's been a couple other changes that I think need to be made. So I guess to me, the questions I'd like to kind of discuss tonight is if everybody's still comfortable with the 50 credits and what we've talked about, but I would like to have another reading in April to make sure that we've got everything cleaned up. One of the changes, again, in ag business, all the standards in the ag business course qualify that the kid could get their financial literacy with that. So that's That's an option that's been added here. We did change the wording on the second page. 8th grade students failing more than one core class would be referred for possible placement in 9th grade IJAG as a freshman, so not to put ourselves in a corner. A couple others that have been pointed out. If you look at the front page, the top section says 8 credits of language arts. There was a time where we had our public speaking teacher was certified to teach ELA. Therefore, it was kind of all just together. Now, Julie Carlson does that. She does not have an ELA certification, so public speaking needs to be added up there. I mean, that is a separate credit. And then we kind of need to decide what we're going to do. Biology is not in the second section, but it is referred to in the third section. We kind of need to decide where we want to put some of that wording. So there's some things, like I said, we need to clean up, and just recommend that we have another reading on that. But any questions about the 50 credits and kind of what we discussed last month? And thank you for putting the letter in the paper.
Oh, yep.
To kind of help explain that.
So the next month would count as a second reading with these revisions, or do you have to hold another first reading because you've revised it?
We looked at policy and we do not believe you have to have the exact same policy. Because that's kind of half the point of having 2 readings, is making sure that, plus the public has time to talk about it too. But we could do 3 readings if.
I'm not sure what the procedure is on something like that when you change along the way, because if the public were to respond to something that was in the first reading, but that's irrelevant or not valid anymore, then.
And we
start
possibly are
coming
making
over
enough
again.
changes that it should have to. Yeah,
We
2
discussed that
more,
as well.
start over again.
Because they have the ability to waive the second reading as well, if that's
Yeah,
what they so desire to do.
and we've done that before. Yeah.
So would this be a first reading of the revised policy?
No,
The
because there's
first
gonna be more
reading-
changes.
Okay, so the first reading will be in April, or this is the second reading, or what's the
Would be the
process?
first reading of the revised policy, but we could, like say, we could waive the second reading. at that
Technically,
time.
it'd probably be the first reading of the revised policy, and if everybody's comfortable,
And then
maybe a
there's
waive,
another 2.
or maybe a waiving of the second reading would be an option.
I mean, the purpose is to give everybody an opportunity to
Correct.
comment and,
Yeah.
not just ram it through in one reading, but
And to me, the other changes are not
They're minor.
substantive changes.
Right.
They're cleaning up to make sure, again, it doesn't say biology in here. It probably should say
Yeah, I'm not
biology.
arguing, I'm just
Yeah.
asking what the procedure is after you change after first.
So
you know, just
we have a motion to
Table it.
table it.
Oh, I will move that we table this until the April meeting.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table the reading of 505.5 till the April meeting. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Davenport. Aye. Fields.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Okay, board committee reports. Anybody have any reports?
That's later.
That's in the agenda, so we
Just
can
kidding.
talk about it.
I made a visit, Monday
Yes.
to the middle school for lunchtime. That lunch is very different experience from my normal lunch. I just sat at 3 or 4 tables and talked to the kids about, what they love, what they hate about the school. An interesting smattering of responses. A common theme was a study hall, longer lunch, and new pencil sharpeners. Yeah. And Mr. Sanders was very accommodating, and it was a fun experience.
Any other reports? I had a conference, county conference committee meeting at the courthouse 2 weeks ago, and the conference committee oversees the assessor's office, and we voted to give everybody in the assessor's office a pretty substantive raise, which I was kind of amazed at, but it sounds like they're trying to keep up with the rest of the county employees, which,
Did they have a second meeting tonight?
yeah, I
That-
missed
yeah,
it tonight
yeah.
because we had this meeting, so, but, it's kind of hard to keep up with all the salaries.
And can I right back around? So one other thing the kids talked about was doors on bathrooms. That they'd like bathroom doors back. And so I asked them all why the doors had been moved, because there's a little bit of ownership in that. And vaping was a thing that came up. And I don't know if I talked with you or not, but I happen to have the company that did the cabling for the courthouse, SCI Technologies, stopped in for a project I've got going on there. But he mentioned that they do have halos.
Detectors.
And he offered, if we want to try a couple out for free, he'd be more than happy to come install them and see how they work.
What are they?
Do you want me to speak to that? That's okay. So we actually explored that at the high school, and I've talked to a couple of different tech directors. Really, really good idea. The trick with them is you need multiple sensors for stalls, because they only pick up a certain radius, from what I understand. They're a little expensive, which is okay. And then there's also false alarms with them. Like sometimes they'll pick up nail polish remover or things like that. And then the next thing is, so from a logistics standpoint, what does the response look like? Who goes to that door to figure out who's in there? And the thing that I've heard from other tech directors is, in that case, most of the time, by the time they get there, kids are out. So it's an awesome idea, and I'm all for it. It's just we got to work through logistics, got to work through cost, and then we got to work through how many we do per stall, per bathroom. Right, and so there's a lot of roadblocks to jump over or questions to be answered. But I think it's something that would potentially help. It's just there's got to be coordination process. So.
Good. Well, you're on top of it.
Well, I'm not on top of it. There's things that we need to address. And obviously, I don't think we put in the elementary, but middle school and high school, we find targets for them. So.
Probably can't have cameras on bathroom.
No, I don't think that'd be a good idea.
Because then you'd know who was setting off that detector. But yeah, you can't do that.
And he did mention specifically Knoxville School District. I don't know if you have a contact down there, but
I don't.
he said they installed some in there, and in that first week they had 4 kids
Right.
that they caught for
Yep.
THC and vaping.
So that actually brings up another issue that I'm not trying to play devil's advocate. Kids are smart and savvy. So what they'll do is they'll figure out that these are going off. So I've heard, and I hate to say this live, but they'll blow smoke into their shirt, and that won't detect it, or they'll blow it in the toilet. And that's how they get around the sensor.
Yeah, thanks for telling me that.
Yeah, sorry. It's all over the internet. It's one Google search away and they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So that's the counter.
Actually, he's going to do a story on it. So
Yeah.
I saw him right
Tonight.
So I love the idea. I think it's super, it's an important thing. I don't know if it's foolproof yet.
Probably nothing is.
Right.
Like you say, they'll get around about anything, probably, yeah. All right, administrators' reports.
Mr. Johnson?
Just a reminder, we have our 2-3 concert tomorrow night out at the high school auditorium. So the second grade kicks off at 6:15, and then the third grade is 7:30 on that. So that'll be going on tomorrow night out there. As I said before, the first one, we had a lot of people there. So crowd again. Had conferences last week. Great attendance at the conferences, so that was very good. Let's see. Rotary has contacted Tim and myself. We've been working on this for quite some time. Another COVID derailment, but where the pond is out there in the playground area that it becomes a pond, they're going to be working to plant some native plants in there that are high water plants that soak up a lot of water, and doing some other things with that. They're hoping to get that done this summer with that. So hopefully that will help some of that issue that we have in the spring, and if we have a wet fall, we can because sometimes we have to tell the kids you can't go out there.
And looking at planting some trees as well.
Yeah, and then doing some trees up around the area.
That's for April 30th.
It's set for April 30th, okay. Okay, and then, we're in the middle of hiring, so it looks like we'll have some work to do. But as I said before, it's just, it's getting alarming and concerning, the number of applicants we are not getting. And I don't think it has anything to do with Greene County. I think it's rural Iowa in general. So, that's something I think that we're going to have to figure out in the future is how do we entice people to say, I won't work at the mall during the evening and substitute teach in Grimes or Waukee and try to get my foot in the door as a substitute teacher that way. Because a lot of the kids are willing to do that rather than come to a small district and get their experience. I mean, we've got one teacher right now, a 4th grade teacher. She drives from Grimes and she loves it here. We just have to figure out ways to get the people here so they can see what we do have to offer. So.
Another issue, can I speak real quick on that? And Ashley Miller has a student teacher, and she told Ashley that she'd been going to some hiring careers, other schools show up, and they're interviewing them right there on the spot and offering them jobs before they even get to schools like us. So it's super competitive.
You get a lot of Texas schools doing that too.
Before they even,
Texas, a lot of the big city Texas schools will come up here and they'll hire Iowa teachers just because they're from Iowa.
True statement. That's how I got hired in Colorado. They said, you're from Midwest? You're in. I'm like, okay. Thanks.
I think she took 6 resumes in and 6 school talked to her and like 2 or 3 offered her. So it's tough.
Is that something we go to or have involvement or should we?
In the past, I know Mr. Sanders is another one, and
We both,
We went together once,
to Iowa State.
pre-COVID, I believe, right?
it was like the week before.
No.
It
One
really,
of the strategies I think we've used, not to
No, I'm fine.
steal
Go ahead.
anybody's time here. No,
Sorry.
no, you're not, no. I just want to step on my toes. Is to get student teachers and practical teachers, because a lot of times they don't know what we have in terms of facilities, quality of students, teacher, support and so forth. And when they come out and student teach, we've hired some of those people back because they liked it. They liked their experience here. And that's one way to get them in the door. So the more requests we get from Iowa State and Buena Vista about, won't you post a teacher? Yes. Yeah, but that's limited too, because you can't have a student teacher every year or even every semester type of thing. That's not fair to kids and to parents either. But that is one way, I think, to get them in the door.
Good, thank you. Since Mrs. Beeger just came in, we'd like to offer a commendation. We broke out you and Mrs. Neal on the resignations and gave you a commendation for all of your years of service. So we do thank you too, Tracy.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right.
Mr. Sanders?
I wanted to formally recognize the cast and crew of Willy Wonka Jr. Hopefully you had a chance to see that over the weekend. And certainly Mrs. Brophy, Mrs. Roberts, and Clay Ross, and Miss Jones, and I know I'm going to forget somebody, but and there are a lot of parents I know that need to be thanked too in terms of costumes and makeup and hair and all of that. But it was really fun. It's just so nice to see kids do things different than you see them, like in the school. I was just shocked at some of the students, even like 6th graders that stepped up. I think this might have been the first time we had 6th graders, and they just did great. But just really fun. That was terrific. And thank you for coming into the building. I know we've had several of you visit our building over lunch, which is definitely a chaotic time. I have been meeting with some student groups as well. Mr. Merck's 8th grade social studies does mock elections in the fall. And so their kids take on different roles in a mock government. They run for office, they propose legislation, they pass legislation, and then each section comes up with a list of things that they like for us to consider. So I just got finished meeting with each of those sections about a week ago, and study halls were something that I wanted to see come back, and more lunchtime was something that I heard. More PE time was something that I heard, that they don't feel like they get enough PE time. Those were probably the three main things I heard, and then some other things. Nobody's looking for sharpeners, and I'm not doubting you one bit. And we had that conversation, I think, when you. We also, at the last day-to-day with the staff, went through some of our high reliability schools survey data that we've been collecting throughout the year. It's part of a Marzano effort that our district is working on. And we took that data and then built it out a little bit. And the particular piece we looked at was teacher satisfaction, things that were positive, things that needed work, and areas that they'd like to see us continue to grow in. And I think to sum it up, without sharing a whole bunch, more and better communication, more consistency, and more transparency among other groups. So that's something we're going to continue to work on throughout the remainder of this year and moving forward.
Mr. Phillips?
I'll echo what Mr. Johnson said about subs and teachers, and Mr. Zanders, that it is a challenge. I was subbing the other day for Woods and for 8th graders, and that was interesting. This Friday, I'm going to sub for PE. So it's one of those things that's still a shortage area. And I'm very grateful that we approved the special ed teacher, because that's somebody that's going back for their endorsement, and have somebody that's a critical shortage area. So thank you for approving that. I went with Mrs. Greene last week to Panorama and talked to the principal there and the guidance counselor about the Career Academy. It's our intention to go around to a bunch of schools, eventually get a lot of them, and just tell them what we have and what we can offer. It's different than an email and a phone call, talk to somebody in person, answer their questions, and what are the challenges with kids not wanting to come. And then, promote some of the things that beyond the college credit, for example, in the culinary, you can get certified in ServSafe, which is about 10 hours of safety instruction. I think every restaurant has to have somebody that's ServSafe qualified. And then for construction, the OSHA training, that's about 10 hours of safety stuff that any employer would want an employee to have that's doing that type of thing, but to get somebody to do 10 hours worth of safety instruction is not the easiest thing to do. So those certifications are some things that are overlooked that they don't really recognize right away. So that's just some of the things that we talked about. But anyway, now we're going to try to do some more schools in the near future. Miss Loudner, one of our science teachers, who's doing a great job, she's going to go with Mrs. Gannon to Iowa State March 31st for a STEM conference. That's science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And kids get problems, and they're supposed to solve those problems with data and research and evidence. So it's high-level thinking, critical thinking. That's good for our kids to go. I think we're taking 16 kids to that. So that's a STEM club going to that. Ram Restaurant, just so everybody knows, opens March 23rd. And kids are going to be serving meals to staff, faculty, and community, and that opens up. So.
Thank you. Mrs. Sandberg is gone. Mrs. Neal?
Yes, working on looking into curriculum for the elementary building for next year, and I got a lit team. We have representatives from each grade level that they have been doing a fabulous job of rifling through it and researching it and seeing what works best for them. So I commend them for all their hard work on that, and professional opinions for moving forward, hopefully for next year. We're doing some sample things this spring, and hopefully we'll have some people coming in and talking to us about it. So I know I'll make a great choice and have some good things in place. And other than that, just doing some growth plans and with teachers and small group meeting with them on small groups and working with title teachers as well. So.
Ms. Hino?
So for math, I've been working with our math interventionist at the middle school a little bit, just what to teach the kids, the schedule. That's been something we've been working on. And just helping teachers when they need it, how to team just needed to look at what they were doing for interventions. So that's a lot of, with the math role. For the family liaison, I just want to say thank you to all the parents that are reaching out to us with questions about our attendance. We're sending attendance letters home, and through some feedback that we've gotten and just some of the people at the school, we've revised our letter a little, just so it's, our intention is really to communicate absences, not in a punitive way. So based on some of the feedback, we've revised our letter, and that's something that it's gonna look different when it comes home. So for the elementary school, I would say, and I'm just trying to make as many parent phone calls as I can, kind of, just letting them know they're gonna receive that, and ask them if they have any questions, kind of communicate our intent. I know it's new, so when there's new things that happen, that's, something that needs done. So that's kind of that.
Thank you. Mr. Gordon is gone. Mr. Stouffer?
We've been pretty busy with the weather, snow removal, keeping the buses and vehicles clean, or trying to. Always come twice this week. Next week is going to be quite busy with grounds. Hopefully it warms up to where we can paint the soccer fields
It'll
and
be 70 degrees on Wednesday.
get things ready, because it starts right after spring break. All the outdoor activities. Have to get the bathrooms and stuff hooked up, so been pretty busy the last few weeks.
Thank you. Mr. Gertzman?
So we've been working with Jefferson Telephone Company on our Channel 22 station, and there were some upgrades with the software. So surprise, you're actually on TV tonight. We're not only live streaming on YouTube, but you're also Channel 22 television stars as well. So shout out to Jefferson Telephone for helping us out reach the community or different demographic, potentially of audience members. So with that, we're going to start live streaming and hopefully doing other things content-wise from not only Ram Fanatic, but maybe Ram News, and then hopefully the Career Academy maybe next year. There's some stuff that we've got to figure out, but there's a lot of potential to reach out to different audiences, and we're hoping to get, I want to get as much stuff as we can out to the community so they know what's going on in Greene County. And this is just another way for us to touch base with them. So lots of potential there, pretty exciting. And as I mentioned, we've got the elementary concert tomorrow, so we'll be live streaming that. And then we've got prom, the Grand March on April 9th, which is kind of a fun event, actually. I volunteered to do that one because I kind of enjoy watching the kids cross the stage and all the rest of it. So that'll be exciting too. So,
Brett, do I mention that in the concert sometimes?
yes, so that's one caveat. Unfortunately, there are 4 songs tomorrow that we cannot broadcast the audio for due to copyright law. So you'll see the kids singing, but you won't hear the kids singing. So there'll be a nice message on the bottom saying due to copyright law. But the majority of the songs they'll sing, right, or listen to. But that's copyright for you. Make sure you're mindful of that. So be enthusiastic. I've got a lot more to talk about later, so I won't bother you with that.
All right. Any other?
I saw you out there, you had other follow-up
Yep.
4th grade fundraiser?
Yeah.
They have made over $600.
Oh, she upped it even more. Okay.
Wow.
Made over
She did.
$600 at this point. They're
Yesterday, they were only at 500. So
Yeah,
they
they
must have
were-
counted
they
again
were-
today.
They came in yesterday all excited, telling me that, and then today, it was just.
Fiona asked
Everybody-
for money.
So,
Awesome. This type of feedback is what we're talking about. Very
Yeah.
simple. So
Yeah.
for anyone else fundraiser requests, this just an email is great. That's fun to see.
Thank you.
All right. Is that all the other reports and correspondence?
Yep.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. Item A, ratification of the 2022-23 negotiated agreement with GCEA and the directive to issue contracts. Yeah, we met, John and Bonnie and I met with Mr. Thompson, Mr. Killeen, Mr. Anderson, and Mr. Jackson. Week and a half ago. Had a good discussion and under an hour, we'd hammered out an agreement. Looking at increasing the base from 32,760 to 33,350, which is a total percentage is 3.86% and a total cost of 301,000. 3.68%. 3.68. Thank you. My numbers.
Yeah, I just thought since it's out on the air, we better
Yes.
get it accurate.
The numbers switched around, so thank you.
Yeah.
That's the phone number too. I think 386.
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
Yeah. Now that we're on TV, we want to make sure I get everything.
So again, I want to thank the two of you. I thought it went good. Thank the association.
As far as the negotiations committee, it was both of our first time being on it. I thought it was great conversation. I learned a ton. So thank you to the teachers that come to that. It's good to have your feedback.
It used to be a lot longer and a little more of a process when there was more money on both sides, I guess, from the legislature, but it usually goes pretty quick.
No, it was good. I think teachers were well represented. So that was good.
All right, do we have a motion to approve those?
I would make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Bonnie, a second by Cindy to approve the teacher negotiated agreement with GCEA. Please call the roll.
Fields.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Dominic.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. All right.
Yeah.
Next one was.
You've abstained in the past, Major.
Oh, yeah, I can vote on it now. Yeah. It's my wife's name.
Has the association approved motion?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. item-
Actually,
Oh, good.
included in the motion needs to be to go ahead and issue the teacher continuing contracts.
Can I just adjust that right now? Do we want to let's just re-motion. How
How
about
about
that?
another motion? to do
Another
that?
motion.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so to issue
But-
contracts.
Yeah, the continuing teacher contracts and their extra ones. And I'm going to say this out loud so it can maybe be in the motion that teacher leader contracts are not being issued yet.
Not yet.
Did you get all that?
Brenda, did you get all that?
Oh,
So-
yes.
Okay. So we're gonna make a motion to do continuing contracts except for teacher leader contracts at this time. Okay,
For certified staff.
for
yes.
certified staff, I would make that motion. I'll second that motion.
All right, motion by Bonnie, seconded by Michelle to do what Brenda said.
Bonnie said it. Bonnie did say it.
I understand
She
what
said
Brenda
it,
said.
you
She
said
has
it.
better words.
Okay, please call the roll.
Dominic.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, item B, school permit request procedure.
I would like to present to the board and maybe think about the board considering changing the process. You know, right now, students come in and I sign the school permit, which again, perfectly fine.
After you make sure.
Yeah, they live a mile, and again, the board policy, we've made that change that they live less than a mile. They can come in and write a letter and can get that approved. I know the East Greene district formerly would require the students to come in and talk in front of the board that they wanted a school permit and why they wanted it. I think that would be a good procedure to go back to. The challenge every year, you know, we get more and more kids with school permits, and again, not that this would stop it, but not everybody obeys the school permit rules. That I'm of the belief if they come to a school board meeting and the consequences are discussed with them and some of those things that maybe elevates the paying attention to those things, expectations. But I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Again,
I think it'd be good.
If a kid's caught off the route now by anybody other than a police, does anything happen?
It's so tough to catch. I mean, that's
Right.
kind of like catching somebody driving without a license.
Right.
You know,
The harder loophole now is that the government lets 14-year-olds drive for farm parts up to 100 miles or 150 miles one way.
Okay.
So that's a lot of a loophole
Right.
that a lot of rural kids are definitely using. I'm going to the parts store. I've had this conversation with a couple of my law enforcement buddies. He said it's just getting, I agree. We talked about that one other time that bring them in, makes a difference. They have to stay and talk to us about it, but.
I think that it's a good idea if they want it bad enough. It's scary. It would be scary for them to come up and talk to us. So they're gonna have to want it.
It's pretty easy to write a letter, just email
Right.
it in, but coming in here is a different
Yeah,
story.
I think coming in.
Or have their parents write a letter for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Which if they have to actually appear, it
Yeah.
puts a little more
Ownership.
seriousness, and ownership behind it.
Explain why they think they need one.
Right.
I'm for it.
I would be for that as well.
I think you should put it in the motion.
Do you want it? Should we act on
Yeah,
that?
it would be great to have that motion that moving forward, any student that wants a school permit is going to be required to.
Well, so do we need to change a policy?
That can be.
I don't think we
board,
have
but
a policy.
Administrative, I mean, it could
Okay.
be administrative rules, but you could have it backed by.
A motion.
But it's stated and written down somewhere, isn't it? Just in the application.
Again, to be honest, right now, high school principal can sign them. I can sign them, and they also have school board president on there, so.
The form that they
Correct.
can fill out could be that we've never done it that way.
Yeah, it may be the form needs to now be signed by the school board president after students come in and
After they appear before the board.
yes. So that's just can be a policy thing, but I think.
So this is for every school permit.
Correct. Yep.
So that'd
Starting
be-
with new ones.
Correct.
I was gonna say, that wouldn't be retroactive then.
I have one.
Because I think the other thing that I talked to the Mark Klaus the other day, I think the other thing would be good to, put your license plate, the vehicles that you're driving, some of those things, because, that's another challenge to, who's driving the vehicle and some of those things, but I just think ramping up everything associated with it would be a positive.
Would it be good to come up with the new form or the revised form and then?
Well, it's a DOT
It's a
form.
DOT
We can't
form, yeah,
do-
there's.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's-
So we're gonna change the DOT form?
No.
And not change the form, basically, school policy would be no longer is the high school principal, the superintendent signing it. The school board president is the one that needs to sign it, and a student needs to come in and present to the school board why they need it. Would be the new process procedure,
But I guess somewhere that's gotta be stated in either a policy or
we'll put that in.
Make sure it's.
a student handbook or something, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Okay. Do we have a motion for that?
So you'd like a motion to require school permit applicants to present their form to the board?
And actually to come to a meeting, not just necessarily present. I mean,
Present.
That's kind of-
Present their
that's kind
application
of split
at
hairs.
a meeting.
Yes.
At a regular school board meeting.
And regular school board.
Would that delay somebody from getting permits since you only meet once a month, though? If they get caught in between sports, would they have to think of that?
Well, they have to be a little proactive about getting it done, I mean.
Because I know it just happens whenever it happens, but I didn't. know if
Actually,
that
what
was a
happens is
concern.
we get a rush of them after there's a driver's ed session that's done.
Okay.
Street
Great.
Smarts does it several times a year, and then we have a rush of them.
Driver's ed is no longer required, is it?
We have to offer it somewhere, and we direct them to Street Smarts.
I think it's required, I mean, a homeschool can teach their own
I
stuff.
thought they were making it so you didn't have to have driver's ed to get it, but.
Well, I think.
I think that was during COVID.
I think if you're
Is that
seeing
it?
Could be.
No, I
Could be.
Could be. I
think I remember hearing that.
So did that count in the motion? What I say?
Say that one more time. Say your
You
motion
so
again.
move that?
I so move that school permit applicants shall come before the board and present their application
At a regular board.
at a regular board meeting for approval.
And be signed off by the president.
Sign.
We're all here for each other. I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion to require that school permit applicants present their permit request before the board or a regular board meeting, and that it's signed by the president.
That's what it says.
All right. Please call the roll.
Silva.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Dominic.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. All right, item C, staff retention payments.
I think as everybody knows, the governor through ESSER funds, they're providing $1,000 payment to those ESSER funds for full-time teachers. But that's not, others do not qualify, and we would like to extend that to all staff. And
I sat in on several webinars, and they gave very specific instructions that if you think you're going to use our little pot of ESSER funds, what the teachers are getting paid from now is a whole different new pot that the governor is offering. Different coding and everything. Anyway, very specifically, it has to be for future. In other words, it can't be, we're paying you because you worked through the pandemic. That isn't what it is. Even this teacher retention one isn't. It is about saying, agreeing, promising you're going to finish the school year out. That's what it's about. So, as long as I've kind of written out the motion and what it should say. I'm going to put this whole thing in the minutes if someone wants to make that be the official motion.
Are you going to pass those out right now?
You all have them.
Oh,
Click on your link.
oh, yeah.
And the very first paragraph is directly out of what the DE gave us.
Okay.
So anyway, so we're recommending $1,000 for every full-time staff member and $500 for part-time, contracted and non-contracted, and anybody that was hired late that didn't work the whole school year, which is very similar to what they did with teachers, other than they didn't do any part-timers, and they won't let anybody that was hired after October 1. So that was part of we followed the same sort of thing. But we're not paying substitute teachers. We're not paying people that are only employed as coaches. Okay, that's what we are recommending.
So this is a really good thing to fill the gap for anyone who says others deserve this too. Teachers have done a great job. They deserve it. Others deserve it. Here's how we're filling that gap.
How many does that affect?
How many is this? Not the whole list, but it's $123,000, and the teachers is like $94,000. So we have 200 people on staff, and it's only 94 teachers so that were eligible. So that's a lot of people that were getting left out.
Right.
And we all are suffering through it. So
We have the ESSER funds to use.
yeah, yes, we do. We have enough ESSER funds to do this. Yes, we have lots of ESSER funds.
Yeah, we have lots of extra funds left over, don't we? But we have plans for a lot of those
Yes,
too.
yes.
I would feel like this would be a good
Yeah.
one.
Infrastructure things that qualify under the ESSER funds, yeah.
I will move to accept this whole two paragraphs as my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Cindy, seconded by Michelle, to approve the staff retention pay, the supplemental pay to staff, for staff retention, as stated in this statement, and you will have that in the minutes, correct? Yeah, so we don't need to read the whole thing here. But
I mean, you can if you want, since we're on TV. You wanna read it?
You want me to read it for us?
Does that show up on TV as well?
No, she's not
No.
sure.
What,
No.
do you mind reading it, Cindy?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
want Bonnie to?
Go for it.
Yeah, me too. Okay, while there are many individuals within our school community who provide critical support and services to students, the parameters for the teacher retention payments are specific to full-time, in-person classroom teachers. Therefore, to address the situation, the board would also like to offer retention pay to staff not receiving the teacher retention pay. Due to district-wide and statewide staff shortages and in anticipation of continuing shortages, along with the increased responsibilities for all staff due to ongoing pandemic mitigation, and to reinforce our desire to retain current employees, I move we pay all active staff a one-time retention payment of $1,000 for full-time contracted employees, $500 for part-time contracted and non-contracted employees, and full-time employees hired after October 1st of 2021. If those employees assure they will continue their employment within the school district at least through the end of the 2021-22 school year. This is not meant for non-teaching staff members hired only for coaching positions nor for substitute teachers. This payment will be made from the available ESSER funds on April 20th, 2022, only if the assurance to remain on staff is given by April 1st of 2022.
Is that gonna be a written assurance then?
I'll have to- Well, actually, the teachers was an online one, an electronic form.
Okay,
And I think we're gonna start that way, but I know that there's people that won't work for. I mean, there's people that, yeah, so I'll also have a paper form for those people. But we have to retain that to prove things. I think 5 years, is that how long we had to retain them?
Correct.
Yeah. Thanks for reading that, Bonnie.
Thanks for reading my motion.
Thank you for taking that training to know we can do that. I think that's wonderful.
yeah,
So,
there were
we'll get the
some
motion.
people, well, it, yeah.
Over half of our
It hurt
staff
a lot of people.
Yeah,
Did.
yeah, it was really
trying to
not
do
fair.
something good and it divided.
Right,
So
it
this
was
is
not
great.
fair, yeah.
So
All right.
we got a motion.
Oh.
Yeah, I know,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Dominic.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Okay. Summer projects, elementary school security cameras and high school parking lot lighting, amongst others.
And actually the one got taken down because they're not ready for the security camera.
Correct. So I put out feelers for different vendors I thought wanted to bid the elementary security camera project. And I've heard back from 2 of them. The third one is interested. They just haven't sent me a bid yet. It was interesting on them. So basically, I got a bid from one out of Minnesota and then another one out of Minnesota. And the second one wanted to use the same contractor as the first for the installation. So I wanted hardware and contractor bids. And when the second one heard that the same contractor was being used, they actually pulled out of it. They said, never mind, we don't want to bid this. Let your first vendor take it. So that was surprising. But anyway, so now I've got one bid from one of the vendors and I'm still waiting on the second bid.
So that'll be on the list in April.
Right,
to-
and I'm actually, so TechZone is one of the contractors that is going to do a walkthrough, submit a bid for the installation, and I'm actually doing that tomorrow with them. So we'll do a site survey and then they'll come back with their proposed amount for installation.
Exterior cameras? I mean,
So
that's what
we
we're
have
talking.
20 total, yep,
Okay.
so we're replacing every
Yeah,
camera
we
in
do.
the elementary.
Okay.
So there's going to be 20 and I'm not sure how many exterior, but exterior and interior. Not in classrooms, obviously, not that much, so she didn't guys. That's a whole nother story, I won't go down.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I didn't put it back up.
Anyway, yeah, so
Okay.
that's where we're at.
Okay, that's fine.
So apparently I took I didn't realize I didn't put it back up. So the only thing we're asking for approval for is the tree bid on the parking lot
Parking lot
lighting,
lights at the high school, which is something we need.
34,410.
Yeah. How many lights is that?
That's 3.
3,
I know 3 poles.
3 big
Is
ones.
that where the generator has been out there?
Correct.
Was it 3 poles with 2?
With 2
Lights.
lights, yeah. And then Alliant again.
It's on that south
Mhm.
side where, so
Yeah.
the,
Alliant is putting lights at
Okay,
the
good.
entrance
I
poles.
would not-
yeah.
Some more things that they've got.
I didn't
Wires
look at
run
that
to
map
it.
before the link was gone.
Yeah. yeah, yeah.
But, yeah, I'm sure that's fine.
It's hard to get things.
All right.
started.
I will move to approve the parking lot lighting.
I will second that.
Okay, motion by Cindy, seconded by Michelle to approve the parking lot lighting project. Please call the roll.
Silva,
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Davidic.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. At the high school, by the way.
Yeah, at the high school.
April meeting, changing the date of the April meeting.
We need a certified budget prior to April 15th, so would like to move the April meeting from the 20th back to the 13th. That way we can just have one meeting, certified budget and have the meeting.
So the second Wednesday instead of the third, kind of like this month.
And at 5 instead of 5:15?
The hearing would be at 5 and then so we can hopefully have that done. So yes, then at 5:15 we can have the meeting. Yes.
Do you need me
5
at
5
5?
o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, move the meeting to 5 and that would be the first agenda item. That's what I would ask, I guess.
April 13th.
So make sure to put on our calendars that it's 5 o'clock meeting instead of the 5:15 meeting. Which if I don't do that, I'll forget it.
I'll make a motion that we move the April meeting to April 13th at 5 PM.
Second.
Right. Motion by Bonnie, seconded by John to change the April meeting to the 13th at 5 PM. Please call the roll.
Fields.
Aye.
Davidic.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. All right, fundraiser requests.
Just have the one.
Request, we'll have a youth track meet. I'd recommend approving.
I make a motion to approve the funding request.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Bonnie, seconded by Cindy to approve fundraiser request. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Davidic.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Okay, board policy review.
About 4 policies with some minor changes. 207.2, change to review of policy rather than revision. 2073, revision/adoption of policy. 2074, board policy manual is available electronically, so we can basically change the wording to that. And then 208.1, annual meeting each year after August 31st. Would be the 4 changes that I recommend.
Has everyone had a chance to look at those already? Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve those changes as noted.
Approve the review with changes.
Okay, I approve I make a motion that we approve the review with those changes.
Thanks.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Bonnie, seconded by Michelle to change, to review the board policy and make changes as suggested. Please call the roll.
Davidic.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Okay, 2022-23 certified budget presentation.
I'm going to kind of go through budget presentation. As you all know, that our budget basically is linked directly with enrollment. The slide there, we had an increase in enrollment this year of 27.8, which was obviously positive, but keep in mind that we were down 41 the year before. So we're still not up to where we were 2 years ago. Special education weighting, just FYI, very similar. And again, we've got weighting for 1.0 for students, but then special ed weighting is additional on top of that if we get additional funding. Preschool budget, or excuse me, preschool enrollment, very similar to what we had last year. And kids go half a day, so even though you see 40, that's 80 kids.
These are worth 0.5 instead.
Again, spending authority. So based on in budget guarantee and our weighting and everything. So if you go to the next slide, one more. One positive with enrollment being up and the fact that we had 2.5% SSA, we've been on the budget guarantees several years. We are not on a budget guarantee this year. And the budget guarantee is completely out of local property tax. So that's nice that we're not on it, that it lowers property tax.
You should say that louder. No.
We'll say it louder
We
as
need
we
to
get
focus on
farther.
positives here. That's great.
Regular program district cost, again, last year compared to this year, we have increase of funding of $243,750. That's additional funds that we have to work with this year. Again, property tax is what fills our bucket. So if you go 2 more slides, yeah, 1 more. Uniform levy. All property tax is taxed at $5.40 in every single district that fills up a certain level, which is the uniform levy. Our uniform levy is up $220,711. That is a function of property valuations being up. So as property valuation goes up and everybody is taxed $540, where we get additional funds, if that makes sense to everybody. But again, the additional levy is down because we didn't have to have budget guarantee. We have increased our cash reserve levy. And cash reserve levy, we don't get funded completely from everything at the state level. This allows Brenda to, again, pay bills and do all those things without juggling a lot of money.
A good example of why you need this is like these ESSER funds, all these, that's a reimbursement thing. I mean, they owe us a bunch of money that we can only claim quarterly. So that is an instance where you need to have the cash to back up things waiting to be reimbursed.
And if you look at the next, our general fund, yeah, that's the one that didn't show up very well, did it?
It doesn't.
General fund property tax rate did actually increase. And again, there's lots of things that make up the property tax rate. But last year was 9.7, this year it's 10.00. The one thing that we are recommending, we have
Income surtax,
income surtax.
instructional support.
That we have that on the instructional support levy, and we also do that on the voter approved couple, that we have made a conscious decision to lower that in this, because that's one thing that people, when they get their taxes done, I can't say that's a complaint, but it is a complaint that they've got to pay their income surtax, that will be lower, that does result in more on property tax. But we're going, this year we're 8% on voter PEPL and we're 4% on income surtax.
Right.
And we're going to move that to 3 and 5.
Mhm.
So we would be down 4 percentage points on the income surtax.
Mhm.
And then we've got additional levies that will, management, PEPL, debt service. So if you go to the bar charts, if you're looking at most of our levies, the management,
I hate that that didn't show up.
yeah,
The titles don't show.
Yeah.
management levy last year, or this year, excuse me, is $1.22. This is down to 89 cents. And management levy is down. We did not offer a early retirement package, so we did not have to levy as much to meet the needs of that. The voted PEPL went from 91 cents up to 102. And again, that's a function of we backed off of the income surtax. So between the income surtax and the property tax, we're going to achieve a certain amount. So if one goes down, the other one is gonna go up. The board approved PEPAL remains at 33 cents. Debt service will go from 237 down to 216. Again, that is a function of valuations going up, so we can generate enough to pay for debt service without increasing that. So total property tax rate, and again, you can't see that. This year, property tax rate is $14.5548, so 14.5548. We're proposing 14.4211. So we're proposing about a 13-cent decrease in property tax for next year. You can kind of see that on that one. Questions on that? It's a lot of stuff.
So both the property tax levy rate and the surtax are down.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, the income surtax, again, the combined between the motor PEPAL and that went from 12% down to 8% is what we're proposing. But that property tax per thousand will be down 13 cents is what we're proposing.
So we need to set a public hearing
Yes.
for next meeting.
That would be April 13th at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. April 13th at 5 o'clock. We have a motion to do that.
I'll move to set the public hearing for the school budget on April 13th at 5 o'clock.
I'll second that. All right, motion by Michelle, seconded by John to set the public hearing for April 13th at 5 o'clock to certify the 22-23 budget. Please call the roll.
Sewell.
Aye.
Dominic. Aye. McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. All right. So we're to K, right?
Jay.
Jay.
Amend this, the 21-22 certified budget, yeah.
And a lot of this you can see is due to the ESSER funds. And then also the nutrition fund has a high fund balance and they need to purchase. And they can update their equipment, which they do need to do. And, but we have to have the authority to do it. So.
And this is just about setting a public hearing at the next one as well.
So we'll have two public hearings that.
That'll be done the same time as the April 13th, 5 o'clock meeting, all right. So we need a motion to set that public hearing.
Well, I'll move to set the public hearing for the amendment of the current school budget for April 13th at 5 o'clock.
I'll second.
A motion by Michelle, seconded by Bonnie. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Dominic. Aye. Sewell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Okay. Item K, appeal for retirement benefits outside of the board policy parameters.
And Denise Kennedy submitted a resignation and requested to be considered under the retirement policy. The two parameters that are minimum 10 years of service and 55 years of age by July 1st or prior to July 1st of the year you're retiring, which that's one criteria she did not meet. And I denied her request, and she's appealing to the school board for consideration for that, so.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your time in listening to me speak. I'm sure you've seen my letter of appeal in regards to me getting my any early retirement benefits, just due to when my birthday lies. I understand that the requirements are to have completed 10 years of service and have completed 10 years of service to the district and reach the age of 55 before June 30th or July 1st. I also realize there needs to be a policy and a cutoff date for that, but I'm only 3 months away from that. I've taught in the Greene County School District for 31 years and in this district for 26 years. I will be 55 in September. So as a courtesy to the district, I turned in my notification to allow you more time to hire a well-qualified applicant rather than just waiting towards the end of for when contracts are due. The last few years have been a struggle for me and many others. I have over 90 sick days as a professional, and I wanted and needed to be there for my students and my families and my coworkers. And as we know, subs are extremely hard to find. It saddens me to know that a teacher who was born the same year as me, but has a birthday before the cutoff date, has only taught for 10 years, can receive these full benefits. I'm a bit confused with some of the other policies, like the early retirement policy benefits that have a deadline date where employees were allowed to hand in their retirement letter after a deadline and still receive full early retirement benefits. I am asking you to please consider my benefits for unused sick leave. Thank you for your time.
How long has this policy been in effect? Any ideas?
Says it was adopted 2014 and then reviewed 2019 in September. It's 406.6. It's the one I was looking at.
Minimum of least 15 years. I mean, I know it was in effect when One thing just to note, the reason the 55 by that date is important is to be able to pay out of management. If someone is not 55, you cannot pay it out of management. It has to come out of general fund if you make any payments.
So that's the reason for the.
That's the reason for the 55 and the date. That's why.
Set the way it is.
It's
Correct.
Iowa code.
Has there ever been in the past any
To me, I'm not aware of any exceptions to that. I would-
exception? That was what
I
I was
would-
looking for.
I would agree that there are people who have submitted after the deadline that met the requirements that the board did approve. Yes, I will admit that. But I'm not aware of anybody not meeting those two criteria and having it approved.
So I'm not a huge fan of straying from policy because once you do it, then other people remember it and then it gets thrown back and it makes it difficult to stick to policy. But my question is, I appreciate that you've turned in your information early because as I'm hearing, it's going to be a challenge to find a replacement, and definitely not one with your experience and skills and dedication. So is there any other sort of like employment opportunity? You can resign as a teacher, but I mean, I'm just throwing stuff out here.
So that you can use your
can
management
you be
fund versus
could
the
you be
general.
an aide until you hit your birthday? Can you be a lunch lady? Can you drive a school
It
bus?
has to, she can't resign when she turns 55. That isn't the way it works. The
That's-
law
It's prior
says
to.
55 by July 1. It doesn't matter. No, it's the law. It's to use management funds.
Okay, you're talking more like a transfer within the district.
But she was talking about just till her birthday,
But
and
it-
that doesn't work.
It would have to be a whole other year.
Yeah.
It'd be
she
a
could do that
contract
a
for
year.
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say it because it's the elephant in the room. We have other people that resigned early that will be 55 before she will, that don't make it, or,
One of them's my wife.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Tim
She
sees
was
one of them.
she was caught in the same
That'd be 34 days.
situation.
Tim sees, yeah, just a few
Yeah.
days.
And as much as we appreciate your years of service, Denise, I mean, and we do. I mean, the problem is if you make an exception, then if in the future you deny an exception, then you've opened yourself up for a real can of worms.
Is there the possibility of transfer of position and still getting those benefits if she wanted to go on for another year as an aide or anything else?
I have to study that more.
But maybe that isn't something she
Maybe,
would want to
I
do.
don't-
It might be an option. Keep talking.
Right.
I would have to process that more, and I mean, in terms of not saying here to process it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want to promise that at this meeting. It'd have to
No,
be a
we would have-
policy. You have to look, I mean,
To receive early retirement funds,
Mhm.
January 15th has been the deadline. Is that a state code?
no. No, April 1st is the state code deadline.
The policy thing I think that you would run into is it's kind of set up. If you're a teacher, you get sub pay. If you're not a teacher, you get 40%
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking
of what you
it is,
finish.
That wouldn't.
You
be good
finish
for
at, so
her
it would be
unless we
different.
change those policies, which we could.
So you're talking about a reimbursement for days, unused sick days at basically sub rate. correct?
That's what it is for
Teacher
teachers.
sub rate is what teachers get, and I think it's.
For other people, it's 40% for administrators and other classes.
Yeah.
Classified.
The current policy reads that way.
Okay, I didn't follow all that.
Right now, the policy, again, if you meet those two criteria, you can be reimbursed for up to 90 sick days. And the rate for teachers is substitute teacher rate. So that's $135.
Okay.
But for administrators and for classified, it's 40% of their per diem.
Okay.
Is what we kind of calculated as the equivalent of that, so.
How do we let sick days accrue so high?
That would be completely standard in the
To
industry.
be quite honest with you, East Greene let you roll forward 120,
Well,
and Greene County only, or Jefferson Scranton only did 90.
You do 90 and then
Combined,
you
went
get your
back to
15, so you start the year with 105 if you're.
Yeah, that's pretty standard statewide.
Just because they're germ mongrels.
Well, and point being, I mean, you let them carry them forward so they don't use them up, you know?
It's your short-term disability as well.
That's how it's built
Yeah.
into that.
Covers until a long-term disability policy would kick in.
So the question is, should a teacher resign from their teaching position and fill some other position until their 55th birthday? Like an aide or a bus driver or a custodian or something?
Again,
You have to
it
finish
would
the
need to
school
go
year.
full.
You have to finish a school year to get retirement benefits.
So you would have to do the whole next school year. It couldn't be just till you turned 55 and then sayonara.
If you
Another way
did that, you wouldn't meet the management fund Iowa code.
And that's what we need to do is try to pay it out of a management fund versus a general fund, which is like, I mean, if I'm doing math, it would be like 2 kids we would have to gain to pay back. That's a very, very general way to say that in your work. And that's a
A
hard.
kid and a half.
A kid.
So
It's
ESSER
worth way more than a
funds,
kid.
those can't be used for employees like a situation like this? Or can they be used for funds that we're
It's a
using?
short-term thing.
Like
though.
as a COVID type something.
Well, the retention, we're using that, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure the criteria on the ESSER funds, is what I'm asking. I mean, there's
For
plenty in the
retirement.
budget, so I'm confused.
For me, the issue is as soon as you open the door, everybody for the next 50 years, then that becomes an expectation.
Well, then could you change the date to the end of the year, December 31st?
But again,
No,
No,
that's-
that doesn't meet the
that's based on-
management fund.
That's
That's
Iowa
required.
code.
That's Iowa code.
That's,
It is that part, but then if somebody like this, or you guys are short, extend it to the 31st.
No, it doesn't meet Iowa code. You'd be able to pay it out of the management fund.
if you move the date from June
Yeah.
30th.
No.
June 30th is an Iowa code, nothing to do with any policy we could change
Because
here.
it's more, it's fiscal year.
Okay.
How many others that have asked it were at like above 20 years, 26 or 31 years? Does that make a difference?
I mean, I don't know how you equate years, and again, I'm not asking for it, but I'm here 15 and I'm 34 days short. What does that mean compared to 26 years in 3 months? I mean,
But that's where
I don't know what the math looks like.
I'm kind of on more of, no, you need to have, you have a deadline. It is what it is. But if you had the interest of doing a position and doing it for the next school year, whatever that might be, it might not be that teaching position. I would be open to looking at something like that. I don't know what it would look like.
I don't know if I can.
There's three policies. One's for certified, one's for classified, one's for administrative. We'd have to look at all those and what they said. We couldn't treat her as an associate different than someone else as an associate.
Right, so it might
So we
be
would have to
40%
change.
staff versus
40% of
classified
the associate wage is not gonna be anywhere near $135 a day.
Mhm.
So that's part of the issue.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying that we couldn't do it, but we'd have to
Really
change the
do it.
policy before this time next year. I mean, we'd want to look at that next fall, I guess.
Well, as much as it stinks, Patty's caught in the same situation than me, so I understand. But it's like I told Patty, I said, policy's policy. And that's what.
And I don't mean to sound like I'm such a hard.
You're
I'm
not.
trying,
You're not.
but I have to protect our unspent balance, and that's what we're talking about. General fund dollars only go so far, and that's why we can't give everybody a $10,000 raise every year. I mean, everybody deserves more money, and there's only so much money we can spend. The state limits it, and being able to use management funds is why we've been able to offer early retirement. And yes, it is a smaller amount this year, but we also don't want to incentivize people to leave. So. I'm
And
just
I
trying
do
to
know where
keep
you're
this-
coming from because I lost my IPERS and I was 3 months away from it
Yeah.
when I left the hospital
Yeah.
and they changed it. So it bites.
But do we want to table it to look at those other policies?
You be past the statutory deadline of April 1.
There's so many rules.
Well, do we have to have a motion then to,
To uphold his, if that's what you choose, if you,
to deny the appeal, basically?
And we have a meeting on March 26th, don't we?
23rd,
Third.
that's what I,
As
yeah,
a
that's what I meant.
special closed meeting, no?
I'm just thinking if there's a way to do a special meeting just to give us a little bit of time to, is that worth trying to, if we're meeting anyway on that day, could we do a special meeting, an open meeting first? Before the search thing? See, I'm kind of looking at you. I mean,
I guess the real question is for Brenda, is there even an option?
I don't feel like there
I mean,
is.
you know all the
But I
policies.
don't, if you make an exception, that doesn't mean we can pay it out of management fund. that means we take it out of general fund. And if we've done it for her, we've got to do it for him, we've got to do it for Patty, we've got to do it for anybody else.
Right,
that
and I
needs-
totally understand that. I just
Yeah.
wanted your opinion.
Yeah.
Is there any other option that you think there's a 6% chance of? If there's not, then there's no sense dragging it out.
There's not an option. There would be an option for next year of changing the policy for next year's retirees.
Well, unfortunately, appreciate everything you've done. I move that we deny the appeal payout benefits for all the codes and policies that are in place.
Yeah, I think you maybe should commend her for her.
Yeah, I do. I think you're a great teacher. My kids all had you. And you've done a great service to the district. We're gonna miss you.
We have a motion to deny the appeal. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny the appeal for retirement benefits. And I'd like to also say, Denise, that we do appreciate, everybody appreciates your service to the district. And I'm sorry that there's not a way to do this. I mean, personally, I'm sorry about it too, but I think you got to draw the line somewhere. So please call the roll.
Davendeck,
Aye.
Silva,
Aye.
Fields,
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fisher.
All right. Superintendent search, item L. I think I've spoken individually with all the members of the board, and we're going to try to move up at the suggestion of the search team, the search firm, move up our schedule a little bit. And we're going to continue as planned to have the meeting on the 23rd, which will be a closed session. And we'll review probably 6 to 7 finalists that they've determined fit the criteria of what we've set for the search. And then, like I've discussed with all of you individually, we are going to try to make a decision that night, if it's possible, if we all can come to an agreement to pare that down to probably between 2 and 4 candidates. And then Lyle Schwartz would like to move up the final interviews with the different groups, stakeholder groups, to that following week, which would be the last week of March. He feels it's important to get ahead of what could be other possibilities that they might have for jobs. So he thought it was important that we move that up. Nothing actionable tonight, but just for information, we're gonna advance the schedule a week according to what we had originally planned.
And I would clarify a little bit that it'll be a board meeting. We'll go into close to review those candidates. But in an open session, we will announce who are the finalists.
Yeah.
At the end of the closed session.
If we come to an agreement of who those final.
If
Right.
we can come to
Right,
an agreement. He
right,
said if
right.
we can't come to an agreement, we can call all of those finalists in for, or semifinalists, I guess.
Yeah,
in
we can meet on that
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah.
for a
okay.
meeting on Saturday, but he was pretty confident, and I think we're all pretty confident that through the video interviews that he's going to present and the other information that they will bring to us that night, that we'll be able to probably pare it down to hopefully about 3 candidates for the final interviews the following week. So,
Coltrane has a question.
yes.
Is your anticipated decision date moved up then too, or is that still whatever that date was? I don't remember now. April something?
It would be up.
No, it would be moved up to.
Yeah, everything's, yeah, we would like to be,
Done on March 31st.
yep. It was gonna be the 8th of April, but yeah, we're gonna move that up a week.
Well, I mean, after you do your final interviews with the finalists, and then you have your person that you choose. That's what you're talking about, is that March
That's what they,
31st.
that's what he's got on the schedule, yeah.
Everything basically matches.
So that's, the-
Yeah,
So you do the interviews, then you make your choice that by the end of the month.
so is that your make an offer date then, is March
Yeah.
31, your date to make an offer?
well, it would be,
That's a first.
we'll look at the calendar here. Thursday,
Yeah.
March 31st, yep.
And by then, everybody who was in all those other groups will have met with those three people too. The public knows all about them, all those things.
Yep,
Right, okay.
we're notifying, Brenda's notified the chairman of each of the groups, and then they're gonna or are you notifying the groups actually?
I'm gonna notify all of them, and then I'm gonna turn it over to the chairs to talk to them.
The chairs will be in charge of getting the groups aligned, yeah, so. Okay, any other questions, or I think everybody clear on that?
If for some reason it hinders who can be a part of it, those groups will change them, correct? They'll find
They could
different-
change slightly, yeah.
Find additional individuals. if it
Or
doesn't
there might
work
just
out.
be fewer people doing it.
But they were gonna inform the candidates of the new schedule, and, yeah, we'll get them all. So,
Okay, and March 26th would be, if we need our, that Saturday, would be our semifinalist.
It's 25th, I think, but yeah, isn't it 25th a Saturday?
It'd be 26 because
Is it the 26th?
25th is a Wednesday.
Yeah, be the 26th.
Okay, yeah.
If we have to do
If we
those
have to do,
Okay.
semifinalist interviews, yeah.
hopefully it'll just be pretty crystal clear and we can.
He said typically they don't have to do that, but because it's gonna be, he thinks it'll be pretty apparent after the video interviews and the information that they're gonna bring us, who will be our
Okay.
top three or maybe four, right? Probably three. We had 23 candidates, so that submitted. So had a good number of applications, and he thought they were gonna be not easy, but he thought they'd get it down to a half a dozen by, yeah.
I hate that job.
Did he indicate if that's typical for a class 2A school to get that many applicants?
I don't know.
I think he was awfully pleased.
I think they were happy, yeah.
I thought it was a little bit more than he expected.
They mentioned how many superintendent jobs are open across the state.
Didn't he tell us 20?
Was there? I don't
There are.
recall hearing that. I don't know.
10 to 12 right now.
Okay,
Okay.
and they're filling fast. Hence
But
the
of course,
week
there'll
up.
be more will open up when people that are interviewing for other
Like taking
positions, he
effect.
says it's kind of
If
a
we
domino
If we
effect.
hire someone.
He said it'll go clear into June that there'll be openings, and of course, the people that present their opportunities later have a lower selection, so, yeah, so.
Later on, a lot of people do interims because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just an FYI, you bring up the aspect of a video interview. That is a trend in jobs now to do that as a screening process. And our business teacher, Teresa Blackburn-Benz, I asked her to start doing that with kids. So she's going to start doing that. So kids will practice answering questions and doing like a pre-screening for a job. So
Yeah.
when they get out, they won't have their first interview going, I've never done this before. So that is something that's more tech than it used to be.
Yeah, the video interviews are just 3 questions. He says, and they have 3 minutes per question to answer 3 questions. He said,
Our kids can do that practice.
they all get the same questions, of course, yeah. So those will be interesting to go through. All right, superintendent's report.
There's a couple things. Brenda did have to apply for an audit extension. Our school audit's running behind. So we've
Not anything we did.
correct. But she's applied for that, and we've been granted extension by the state. normally do March 31st, but we've got until June 30th for the audit firm to finish that out. I've kind of talked to Michelle and Steve, going to work on administrative and classified negotiations now. So I think we're going to try to meet before the 23rd board meeting, and I'll communicate that with you a little bit more. Other thing working on right now is externships for teachers. This is one thing that's kind of, I think it's really exciting. The state has done it for a few years. Iowa Central Community College does it. We're going to do our own program through some of our professional development funds, and I've had 6 teachers that are interested in it. The whole concept is they would work for 1 week in a business in the summer, so they can bring real world learning back. So, how is math used in businesses? So when they're teaching math class, they can make it real world to students and go through that. So like I said, I've had 6 teachers interested in that. I'm going through the process of kind of interviewing them right now and what businesses they're interested in working in. They'd be paid $1,000 stipend in order to do that for, again, a 40-hour work week. There's also an opportunity for them to get recertification credit. But after we find out what businesses they're interested in, we'll contact those businesses and try to work on a placement, which again, I think it's really good. The last one we had,
Emily Van Egmond.
Emily Van Egmond, yeah, I did it about, again, pre-COVID, we keep saying that.
I
But
think Gary Stein did it.
yeah, he used to do that. I know Dan Bennett's did it, Parker Industries a lot of years ago. So it's kind of coming back. If we can get, again, the real world learning for teachers so they can make that more applicable to students. So that's all I've got.
And how many teachers do you want, or how many?
We threw it out to everybody.
Okay. How many teachers do you hope to have participate in this?
I've had 6 that expressed interest in doing it.
And then do they make suggestions of some of the businesses?
Yes, I asked them what they, whether it be math, science, what they're interested in, and what businesses they're potentially interested in, and how they're going to bring that information back to students.
Are they all local businesses? Or no?
That's probably what we're going to focus on, but they could be farther away. It's all a matter of how far the teachers want to drive, and maybe where they live and different things.
Does that funding come out of the general fund?
No, that will come out of teacher quality professional development funds. So, we've got a group that meets that's equal representation of teachers and administrators that we've agreed that that's the way we can use the funding.
That'll be high school teachers primarily doing that.
All teachers. It's open to all teachers.
All right. Is that it?
That's it.
Any other questions or comments? And we'll adjourn.